Greetings, seekers of critical insight. Today we embark on a vital intellectual journey into one of the most influential and provocative books of the 20th century, Edward Said's Orientalism. Published in 1978, this groundbreaking work introduced a critical concept that forever changed how we understand the relationship between the Western and Eastern worlds. Said argued that Orientalism is far more than just a field of academic study. It's a deeply ingrained Western style of thought and perception that has consistently depicted the East, the Orient, in a way that is often contemptuous, romanticized, and ultimately a tool of imperial power. Imagine a world where one group of people defines another, not based on their lived reality, but on a collection of age-old stereotypes, exotic fantasies, and presumed inferiority. This is the essence of Orientalism. Said reveals how Western scholars, writers, and even artists have historically created a distorted image of Asia and North Africa, reducing diverse cultures and complex societies to simplified, often demeaning caricatures. This wasn't merely innocent misrepresentation. Said argued it was inextricably tied to the imperial ambitions of the West. It justified colonial rule by portraying the Orient as inherently primitive, irrational, violent, and therefore in need of Western enlightenment or control.
His core argument is that Orientalism operates on several interconnected levels. Firstly, it's an academic tradition, a body of Western scholarship on the East. But this scholarship, he contends, is rarely objective. Instead, it's permeated by a worldview that establishes a rigid, often Manichaean, good versus evil distinction between the Orient and the Occident, the West. This distinction always presumes Western superiority. And thirdly, and most crucially, Orientalism functions as a powerful political instrument of domination. It's a way of knowing the East that simultaneously asserts power over it. Think of the pervasive stereotypes, the veiled women, the despotic rulers, the fanatic masses, the inscrutable mystics. These aren't authentic representations. They are fictional essences crafted by the Western gaze. Said points out how these cultural representations reduce the rich human density of Arab Muslim life into crude caricatures, often serving to make these regions vulnerable to military aggression, even in contemporary times. This reveals the chilling link between knowledge and power that Said so powerfully articulated, the seductive degradation of knowledge when it becomes subservient to ideology and control.
One of the most profound implications of Orientalism is its impact on how we understand cultural representations themselves. Said argued that Western writings about the Orient cannot be taken at face value, precisely because they are filtered through this lens of cultural bias and historical power dynamics. The history of European colonial rule, he demonstrated, fundamentally distorts the intellectual objectivity of even the most well-meaning Western scholars. This led to Orientalism becoming a pejorative term, highlighting how deeply prejudiced and politically charged these depictions truly were. Said emphasized that pure knowledge is a myth. All forms of knowledge are inevitably influenced by ideological standpoints. Therefore, understanding the connection between ideology and literature, or any form of cultural production, is paramount. European literature, for instance, didn't just passively reflect Orientalist notions. It carried, actualized, and propelled them forward, reinforcing the very discourse that made possible the domination of Eastern peoples. While he acknowledged the necessity of representation in human life, Said passionately argued for a shift towards participatory and collaborative representations, systems where those being represented have a genuine voice and agency. This is a monumental challenge in an age of increasing media concentration, where dependent societies often rely on these very systems for their own self-knowledge, often without realizing the inherent bias embedded within them.
The influence of Orientalism has been vast, not only shaping literary theory, cultural studies, and Middle Eastern studies, but also laying the foundational groundwork for post-colonial studies. It provided a critical method for analyzing how colonial power continued to exert its influence, even after formal independence, often through persistent Western ways of intellectual inquiry and the production of knowledge. Sadie's work encourages us to question the very sources of our knowledge about other cultures and to recognize the subtle and persistent Eurocentric prejudices that continue to shape global perceptions. So, as we reflect on Said's powerful legacy, we are compelled to ask ourselves, how do the inherited images and narratives about the other still shape our understanding of the world today? And what is our responsibility in challenging and dismantling those representations that continue to serve as instruments of power and control rather than genuine understanding? Orientalism is not just a historical critique, it's a vital call to critically examine the assumptions that underpin our knowledge and our interactions across cultures.